Generalized. This is Anne talking. If you're not watching us on YouTube, stop, Erica. We have a special guest with us. Please welcome Miko.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here with us and taking time to talk about some things. I'm gonna have Erica take over now before I get fired.
Anne's always getting fired from something on our podcast every week. So tell us a little bit about yourself, some hobbies that you engage in, interests outside of we know that we should have prefaced, you do some self-advocacy work, which is awesome. And so I guess just tell us a little bit about yourself, including your hobbies and interests outside of your self-advocacy work.
I'm big into sports like ice hockey, basketball, Major League Soccer, and Major League Baseball. I love traveling. I go and travel to see family in the States quite often. What else? I travel back home to South Africa where I was born. I was born in Cape Town. I came to Toronto when I was 5, and I currently live in Toronto.
Okay. Cool. When you say soccer, do you mean soccer or football?
Soccer.
Okay.
I think it's only like in England and like Europe they call soccer.
And in South Africa as well.
In South,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in Canada, I think it's actually soccer. So
got it.
But yeah, so I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. What made you want to come on to our podcast today?
Well, me and you, Erica, connected in a Facebook group. And I kind of started looking into your stuff, and I really just liked what you guys posted, and thought, hey, I'd like to come on this podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So what led you to become an autism advocate?
So when I first started my journey, it wasn't to become an advocate. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, so my mom suggested like trying to look into Facebook groups to make friends, and then I started finding like these really cool articles online about people with autism in the media, and then I started posting them into this group, and then one of the admins of the group was like, hey, we have like this whole board of directors for this group called the Ontario Autism Coalition. We'd like you to join. And then at first I said no, I didn't feel comfortable, and then after a while I finally joined, and the rest kind of is history from there.
Cool.
That's awesome. And then can you talk a little about what you advocate for?
Sure. So here in Canada, we have a conservative government, which would be like your guys, Republicans. And they destroyed the old autism program we have here in Ontario, which funds things like ABA, IBI, speech and occupational therapy.
So that's not like, so if you can't get that through insurance anymore?
You can, but it's very hard to. Only certain jobs have it covered under their insurance. It's usually funded by a government program. We have like a whole ministry that oversees it. And then we had a liberal government, which would be like your guys, Democrats. And then the new government came in and destroyed the program. And now we've got like 70,000 kids waiting on a wait list for services.
Wow. And I thought our wait lists were long. Like we have wait lists for companies and stuff. And it's kind of hard to like get ABI for a lot of our kiddos, or even services for some of our kiddos without that diagnosis of autism, or even just like a delay of any sort. So I can't even imagine what you are going through, or like what people are
our wait list, like one of the opposition parties as the legislator did some digging, and the wait list, if you're at the bottom of the wait list, you're going to wait 66 years. Like none of us are even going to be here in 66 years from now.
And at that point, those
don't
need services probably at that point. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So then I guess I know this isn't like something that I'm just so engulfed in this. Like this is like, so okay, if you are not getting services and you have to wait on this wait list, like what do you do?
Unfortunately, nothing. And then our government just gutted special education, and we've been having rallies at our local legislature, which would be like your state capitol building, basically. And the government just kind of turns a blind eye. They block our emails, they block our calls. We started doing rallies at government officials' constituency offices, and they wasted taxpayer dollars by calling the cops on us, even though we're protesting peacefully.
Oh my gosh.
That's really difficult.
So
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate, like, to have no services and no ability to grow and learn, like, in the same atmosphere that we would be teaching.
Yeah, and
Our
we're
kiddos
already
down here.
we're already seeing the dark side of that. Like, there's a group home up the road from where I live where there are adults who never got services, and a lot of these adults are like physically adults, mentally they're like that of like an infant. Like, a lot of them are in diapers, a lot of them don't know,
Wow.
about the dangers of cars, and they're running out of the group home in the summer and like running down the road, and the workers are having to chase them. Like, it's horrible. It really is.
Yeah.
And so, like, as you were saying, so you can get services, but you probably have to pay out of pocket, right? Like, it's not through the insurance, it's through, like, out of pocket. And so that also is expensive in itself.
Yeah.
But a lot of families are moving to the States. Like, a lot of families are moving to Florida. A lot of them are moving as far away as England, like, to get services for their kids. Like, they just can't wait.
I believe
Now
it.
that includes the IBI, ABA speech,
Yeah,
and
speech and
OT?
occupational.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what IBI is? We are very familiar with ABA and speech and OT services, but we're not really familiar with the IBI.
IBI is based on the science of ABA. It's just like a more intense version, but still pretty much ABA. It's just like to help with more challenging behaviors.
Is it? I wonder if it's similar to the EIBI program that we had.
What is
in our previous company in PA? That's the IBI part.
So is it, what does IBI stand for?
It's what is it? Intensive behavior intervention.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe the E was like early for we didn't work in that.
Like 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Who have like severe behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that you do know about ABI? Because I know you know about the IBI, but is there anything about ABA that you do know of that?
I know that it helps with a lot of, life skills, like toilet training, like, feeding yourself, dressing yourself, hygiene. It helps teach you those, life skills that a lot of us take for granted.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you ever receive, I know you had told me that you had never received ABA. Now, is that because of that whole waitlist thing, or is it just because you never needed it, or if you don't mind sharing? I never needed
it. I did speech and occupational therapy.
Got you. Okay.
If you're comfortable about this, can you tell us more about, so for the kiddos who are getting ABA in Canada, what does that look like? Like, is it just in homes? Is it in schools? Is it like, where is it?
There are centers, and then there's also in-home as well. It depends on what you can afford. And there are some companies that if a parent works for like a corporate company, some of them will cover it under their medical insurance, but it's few and far between that cover it for medical insurance.
So is it in schools at all, or is it completely outside of schools?
It's completely outside of school.
So you don't really see that integration into the school programs?
Not really, no.
Because I know you had mentioned
you
also the special education. Yeah. Oh, so what do these kids do if they don't have special education programs?
A lot of their parents are having to quit their jobs and go on disability so they can care for their kids, because their kids are flight risks. They escape. There was just a story in the news where a 7-year-old severely autistic kid spent an hour outside of school in a snowstorm with no pants and just a t-shirt in the middle of winter here in Canada. And the school was like, oh, he was missing for 3 minutes. But then when they looked at security cameras, he was gone for more than an hour.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
This gives me the chills. Like,
I know, like this is so sad.
Yeah.
So you kind of just touched on this, but just to clarify, so do you think that if you had ABA as a child, like that you would have benefited from it, or did you really get all that you needed from the speech and OT?
I think I got all I needed from speech and OT.
Okay, because did you have like any problems like communicating, or
Well, yeah, I didn't start speaking till age 3. I had echolalia.
okay?
And then once I hit age 5, I started actually speaking in sentences, and my mom says I haven't stopped talking since.
I literally, when parents say to me, like, oh, we can't get them to stop doing this or that, I'm like, well, remember when they didn't talk at all? Like,
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome though. Do you remember like that time? This is not a question, but I'm just curious because if you weren't able to talk until you were 3, like, do you remember
Yeah,
like
I
going
remember,
through that?
getting really frustrated, like, and having tantrums when I couldn't, express what I wanted, and feeling frustrated, like, why don't people understand what I'm trying to communicate?
Mhm. Did you have any other form of communication before speaking? Like, were you doing any like PECs or like a device of any sort?
No, sometimes I would just run to, like, if I was hungry, I'd run to the fridge and point at what I wanted, or if I was thirsty, I'd point at a cup, and my parents were like, oh, he's thirsty.
So you kind of just like used the skills that you kind of had, like you could point, you knew where things were in the house, so you kind of just. It sounds like you guys kind of developed your own system within the house of like, yeah, when I point to the cup, it means I need water. Whenever you pointed to the fridge, you needed food. You kind of came up with your own communication system.
Yeah. Or if I pointed to the TV, it meant I wanted to watch TV because I didn't know how to work the remote for many years. So my parents would switch the TV on.
What were your parents happy that you didn't know how to work the remote?
I think so because I have always been an insomniac, so I don't sleep well at night, and so like I think they'd be scared that I would start watching TV in the middle of the night and wake everyone up.
That's funny. We wanted to talk about if there were any other skills you were delayed out and how you think ABA could have helped you with that skill.
I don't think ABA could have helped, but I did a lot of speech and OT, and I learned how to write. Though I struggled, so I needed like a thicker pencil than a normal pencil or pen. And I needed a lot more help with like things like math and science, which I struggled with in school. And also like dressing myself was also I was also quite late with that.
Is that something that OT was able to help you with?
Yeah.
The dressing? Okay.
Dressing.
And then sorry, Anne, I'm just gonna jump in real fast. So I know you had mentioned to us specifically like toilet training was difficult for you. And we actually had Amanda on, who was IOT a couple episodes ago, that talked specifically how she helps children in her caseload with potty training. So can you kind of touch a little bit on your experience with that? And then like, maybe we can jump in and see like what we've done, with toilet training, and maybe ABA could have helped with that skill, if it was available to you.
Yeah, I was really late with toilet training. I was age 10 during the day and about 17 and a half at night. I feel like with kids with autism, sometimes they just take longer naturally, and then eventually they get it on their own. I feel like I was maybe one of those cases where I just took a lot longer than my peers, but I don't think ABA would have helped. I feel like I always tell parents when they reach out to me, I'm like, don't rush your child. Let them lead the way and show you when they're ready.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Amanda had said when she was on our podcast. She talked a lot about just getting the child exposed to the bathroom, being, talking about what happens in the bathroom, and, definitely not rushing a child and pushing them that like they must be toilet trained. So that's interesting that you have that same perspective of like, you just didn't need to be pushed. Whenever it was going to happen, it was going to happen.
Exactly. But I mean, I had like friends who are neurotypical who don't have autism who were also very late with toilet training. Like each kid is very different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I have a friend who is neurotypical, but they weren't toilet trained until age 7 during the day. So it just
I mean, I totally get it. I have a relative that was neurotypical and, during the day could use the toilet, no problem. But like at night took a significantly longer time, to be toilet trained. And, it affected him with like sleepovers and, it starts to affect you like socially too, of like,
Yeah.
you can't go hang
I
out.
understand, when other kids are, starting school and they're the same age, but they're not toilet trained, they're like, why is this kid so different from me? And then they start, I guess, bullying. I got bullied quite a bit.
That was going to be my next question. So like, did it affect you at school at all? Because obviously you weren't going to the bathroom like the other children. Like, how did that affect you?
Yeah, I had an educational assistant with me and they would help with that. And I feel like the other kids didn't understand why I was so different. So I often got excluded and made fun of.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Did you have
what happened to you?
Did you have like, was there other children with autism in your classes with you? Like, did you have a good?
Not until I was in like 6th grade. There was another kid diagnosed in my classroom, and then when I was in 8th grade, a kid who was about 2 or 3 grades below me had just been diagnosed as well. There wasn't a lot of cases of autism in my school.
Do you think that people are delayed to be diagnosed in Canada?
Oh yeah, like I was diagnosed late for a boy. I was only diagnosed at age 7.
Wow.
Whereas a lot of my friends that are diagnosed were diagnosed like pretty early on at like 18 months.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I see like in where I'm at too. Like we see it's not diagnosed as early as what we were seeing. Like the three of us, we had worked in Pennsylvania together and like we saw kids get diagnosed a lot earlier on. But I think like what I'm seeing down where I am, you're getting diagnosed a lot later, or like there's no specific timeline for diagnosis, right? Like
Yeah, my
even
cousin was diagnosed as an adult right before the pandemic at age 37.
Wow.
Well,
yeah,
and
like,
you're seeing that more on social media
diagnosed
too.
like a month before the pandemic. Like literally a month before the pandemics.
That's wild.
Was there something that was going on like that led them to go get the diagnosis, or like?
Yeah, so they're very much like Temple Grandin. Like they don't like to be hugged. Like when you hug them, they kind of like stiffen up and like they're not really. They don't show emotion the same way that other people do, and he gets very overwhelmed with social situations. He likes to be kind of by himself. He's very much a homebody and very much an introvert.
So I guess I just wanted to kind of turn it. I have one more question before we kind of turn the tables on you and just see if you have any questions for us. I was listening to one of your previous podcasts that you were on, and you had talked about that you did training with like the police force to like help help the police like deal with people on the spectrum. Can you kind of just talk a little bit about that and what you did?
So we did training at one of our local universities with 2 different police forces, and we trained them how to help people with autism going through mental health crisis and giving them tips and pointers like don't point your weapon at them. It's just going to make things worse. Try and, really talk to them softly and try and ask if you can help rather than, just pointing your weapon and yelling at them.
That's awesome.
Kind of piggybacking
That's so great.
off of that,
like that.
Yeah, but like piggybacking off of, I guess, like you training and teaching like tips and tricks and stuff. What kind of tips and tricks can you give to our listeners that may, either be working with individuals or have an individual that is diagnosed or not yet diagnosed, to kind of like help understand what, I guess like what they can do to kind of help that person?
Really try and meet them where they're at, really try and get on their level and try and see, what level they're at and not try to expect too much from them, not try to expect too little, like really try and gauge where they're at.
Yeah. And I will say, like, a lot of times we're writing our goals that really focus on like, all right, well, where are you, right? Like where can we meet you right now? And how can we help you progress forward? Right. And I think that's great advice.
So my question for you guys is, where are you guys all located?
Yeah. So I'm in South Carolina. We all three were in Pennsylvania together. But yeah, I moved down.
I'm still in Pennsylvania. I am the last survivor. I'm the only one who has not left Pennsylvania yet.
I've been to Pittsburgh. It's one of my favorite cities.
So actually my husband's family is from Pittsburgh. So we spend quite some time out in Pittsburgh.
And Anne, where are you from?
Well, I'm from Pennsylvania as well, but we moved to California last August.
Oh, nice. Where in California?
We're more south. We're closer to LA.
Okay.
So
I've been to LA
yeah.
and Anaheim and Santa Monica. They're all beautiful.
Yeah, we were in LA yesterday. But my brother, I have family out here. So we were with my brother and he said we weren't technically in LA, but I'm calling it LA.
Yeah, I've been to Anaheim. I've been to Santa Monica. I've been to Burbank. I've been to LA. It was beautiful. Me and my family went there for the Christmas holidays in 2012. It was absolutely beautiful.
How often do you visit the States?
Fairly often. My family, that I go and see, they fly around the world for work and they rack up air miles and they fly me out maybe once every 6 months to see them.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So about twice a year.
Have you been down to South Carolina at all? Ever?
No, never.
Mm.
I want to go to Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina. Those are on my bucket list.
Nice. Yeah, those are north of me.
And so you live in Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania do you live?
I'm closer to Philadelphia, so I am
Okay.
on the other side of the state. But as I said, we travel across the strait. Oh wow, words don't work. Let's try that again. We travel across the state to Pittsburgh quite often, probably once a quarter. So like every 3 months, where we travel out there.
Yeah,
So-
one of my favorite TV shows takes place in Pennsylvania, The Office.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Is there any like ABA questions that you have for us that we could answer for you before we wrap things up?
Sure. What kind of skills do you guys work on with your clients in ABA? Like, do any of you currently work with your clients on toileting?
Yes.
I'm in a school setting, so we're past that with the population that I work with. So I'm not currently.
So I work in like the home community and I'm sometimes in some schools, but yeah, I work on toileting. I'm currently just trying to get the client used to using the bathroom or like going into the bathroom and pairing that experience as a whole. And we kind of I've taken a lot of what Amanda has told us too from an OT toileting perspective into my practice. So just kind of like warming the child up to the potty, maybe bringing some fun things in there, sitting them on there and just kind of taking our time versus being like, no, you have to go to the bathroom right now. And I mean, granted, I've never done that. I've never been like, you have to go right now. But I follow like a 3-minute rule of like, all right, we're going to sit on the toilet for 3 minutes. And then if you even say you're all done or show signs of not wanting to sit there, I'm taking you off kind of thing.
Right.
So that's kind of what I do.
Yeah,
with
I
toileting.
find like a lot of my friends that are therapists work with kids like you, Erica, and then they're like 5 minutes after I take them off, they have an accident in their diaper. And it's just like, oh man, we tried and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot as well. And I think that, it happens. And as long as, once you have that first success, I think that the child or the client is like, oh, I can actually do this. It's just getting that first one done and
the confidence.
A lot of confidence.
Yeah.
I know I also worked with a lot of clients that we just even start with hand washing instead of toilet training, but we kind of lump it all together because, hand washing, we still have to do in the bathroom a lot of the time. So
yeah, hand washing is really important. I've worked in kitchens and hand washing is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes just, working on hand washing in the bathroom can get you used to the bathroom setting and, getting you more comfortable with that. And we're not even really focused on the toilet, but, let's just wash our hands and be in the bathroom and start there. Especially some of the kiddos that are very aversive to even going into the bathroom. I know I have also seen a client that the toilet was in a different section of our clinic and they worked on just like if you can walk back there or if you can walk 1 foot away from the toilet, like that was a success. And just getting closer and closer to even getting near it, the bathroom.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing all your posts and future episodes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. And then just for all of our listeners, email us at aba.generalized.podcast@gmail.com, Instagram, ABA Generalized the pod. If you're watching us, we're on YouTube at ABA Generalized. TikTok's a hot mess, so let's just skip over that. And just remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, ladies.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
ABA Generalized, the podcast, is not providing professional advice. Please seek a professional in your area for specific advice and support.